let's focus on a team that won't have to worry about drafting high this year, the Los Angeles Rams. And one thing I've been advocating for the Rams for the past few weeks, get away from this three-headed monster, get away from a two-headed monster, develop and rely on one guy at the running back position, Cam Akers. He did that last night. Sean McVay did, and Cam Akers had a huge night. Let's hear from the rookie on the big evening that he had against the Patriots.
Just going out and trusting our offensive line, trusting the play calling and the scheme that we've been practicing over the past couple of days. The offensive line was the reason the run game was so successful tonight, in my opinion. Those guys got great push every time we ran the ball, and it showed. The run game was very successful tonight, and we want to keep stacking blocks.
Offensive line getting it done without Andrew Whitworth, who's expected back at some point. The Rams are peaking at the right time. And, they've shown us flashes this year, and there have been moments where we think, wow, they're pretty damn good, and then they lose a game like to the 49ers, two different occasions where you say, well, what do they really have going on here? But they've built some momentum now with a big week, beating the Cardinals on Sunday and then turning around on Thursday night and really manhandling the New England Patriots. And now with 3 games left, Peter, they're the favorite to win the division. The question is, can they maybe get lucky here if they keep doing what they're doing, win their last 3, get to 12-4? Does that get them in striking distance for one of the top 2 spots in the NFC? Not that the second seed means anything this year because you don't get a bye anymore, but the higher you are on the playoff tree, in theory, the better positioned you are to try to make a run at the Super Bowl.
So Mike, Cam Akers was inactive twice earlier in the season, and so he's been active for 11 games so far this year. In 8 of those 11 games, he's had 10 carries or less. In the last 2 weeks, they've started to use him as their primo guy, 21 and 29 carries. But what I thought was really interesting watching him last night, I just started saying to myself, I don't think I have seen a running back with as close to a Le'Veon Bell style of running the ball as I've seen with Cam Akers. The thing that made Le'Veon Bell so interesting as a running back is the fact that he was almost like a thoughtful running back. He'd get close to the line of scrimmage, he'd see where it was, bang, he'd wait a split second, then he would hit the hole and be the one-cut runner going upfield, okay? But last night, what I saw with Cam Akers was almost exactly the same thing. He's a patient runner. He's a decisive runner between the tackles when he has to be, but he's a patient runner when he goes outside. And I think especially when you've got guys who can clear it out, like Joe Noteboom. Nobody knew who he was basically until last night. And now his job on the left side of that line, I thought last night, really helped the Rams dominate New England, which you very rarely see. And especially you don't have Whitworth and you play that well in the run game. That's a tremendous job by the Rams.
The Rams are carrying a major scar from the Todd Gurley experience. They gave him the big contract. It didn't work out after that because of his knee problem dating back to Georgia. And they wanted to be more like the 49ers this year with multiple running backs being relied upon on a regular basis. They have settled back into developing that one guy and letting that one guy carry the load, with Darrell Henderson being the backup and Malcolm Brown being the thanks for participating option. But there are parallels to the 49ers that were noticed last night, Peter, and it makes me wonder how this Rams offense is going to look as we get closer and closer to the playoffs and into January. Game still not completely resolved. Still a window for the Patriots to make something happen, and you get a 3rd and medium and you run the ball. You get a couple of those instances where it looks like an obvious pass situation, and Sean McVay takes the ball out of his supposed franchise quarterback's hand. That reminds me a lot of after Kyle Shanahan got freaked out by Jimmy Garoppolo early in the second half of the divisional playoff win over the Vikings and shifted to heavy run, and then the entirety of the NFC Championship game when Jimmy Garoppolo had a Bob Greasy stat line with like 8 passes for the entire game. I can't help but wonder whether or not that's what we're going to see from the Rams. If this run game's working, there's no reason to trust anything to Jared Goff.
Totally agree. I mean, last night, Cam Akers, 29 rushes, Jared Goff, 25 passes. And that's not an accident, because I think that any coach, no matter how much he wants to fill the air with footballs, and Sean McVay certainly does, is going to play a game exactly the way that Sean McVay played it last night, when and if he's got a guy who's rushing it for 6 yards every time he touches the ball on average. And the one other thing I think about McVay, I think people over the last 3 or 4 years have basically said about McVay, all he wants to do is throw the ball. Look at him, working with the quarterbacks all the time. That's all he wants to do. Look, I mean, there's no question he's excited about his passing game and wants to make the passing game work. But the bottom line is, Mike, he's like every smart coach who has ever coached. When your running game is working, it's the safest way to move the ball. Don't put the ball in the air as much, and that's exactly what he did. Now, last week his quarterback threw it 47 times, and last night his quarterback threw it 25. I don't expect Jared Goff to throw it 25 times a lot, but I think Sean McVay also doesn't want to throw it 47 times. He's just like the Steelers. Randy Fichtner right now knows that the last 2 weeks he's thrown it 104 times, Roethlisberger has, and he says, I do not want to do that. So I think you're going to see, the Rams go back to significantly above 25. But as long as they have Akers playing like that, they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely no reason to take the ball out of the sure thing's hands if Cam Akers is playing like it was last night.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.